Hello everyone, I hope you are all doing well. Also hope that you have made a good potato harvest with good qualities and good prices. Today the topic is not about recommendation of varieties. Heike asked me to tell something about nematodes and what you can prevently or in case or investigation, since the climatic condition will also change here in Finland and therefore pressure will certainly increase. So we want to talk about potato cyst nematodes and mainly about Rossessiensis 1 to 5. Here you see some pictures, what happens and how looks the cysts. So potato cyst nematodes are among the most dangerous potato pests in the world. Therefore, they are classified as quarantine pests and are regulated particularly strictly in plant protection. In potato growing areas with a temperature climate, the root system of the potatoes can be severely damaged by potato cyst nematodes, so that in the course of time no more economical cultivation is possible. And this is the end, and this is very, very bad. There are two species we are known. The first is the yellow or golden potato cyst nematode, Globodera rossessiensis, also called golden earworm. And the other one is the white potato cyst nematode, Globodera pallida. In the moment, I think mainly the Globodera rossessiensis occurs in Finland. It has its own pathotypes. This pathotypes are Rossessiensis 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which may differ per region. And the pathotypes from Globodera pallida are pallida 2 and pallida 3. And I think since 3 years or 4 years, we have a new pathotype found in the region of Emsland, and the name is Emsland type, and it occurs in a region where the farmers grow industrial potatoes, and they grow potatoes again and again every year potatoes, and then the resistance is broken and there it's coming a new pathotype. It's very bad. I think the breeding will be during 20 years before we get a resistant variety. These are defined as groups of nematodes, each of which can break a specific resistance mechanism in the potatoes. As a consequence, potatoes with a special resistance must be grown against each pathotype. 5 pathotypes of yellow potato cyst nematodes are known. I told it in the beginning, from Rossessiensis 1 till to Rossessiensis 5. Pathotypes, which are very closely related, are grouped into violence groups. The first group is Rossessiensis 1 and 4. And the other group is Rossessiensis 2, 3, and 5. And the good thing is, for the choice of variety on infested areas, the consequence is that resistance to the pathotype row 1 is also effective against pathotype Rossessiensis 4. This is not the case with Globodera pallida. This is a bad thing. Cyst nematodes develop only one generation a year. With the onset of root growth, part of the nematodes, the second level from stage, leaves the cyst and migrates into the roots. where the mold multiplied times and develop into sexually mature adults. The feed on the cell contents and later the juice stream and cause entire root parts to die. The females piece the root epidermis with the abdomen and are matted by the males. After the cessation of egg development, females die and become cysts. In their body remain up to 400 eggs, which each of them is coming a larva. We make farther with the biology. The propagation rate can reach 10 to 20 times and more, depending on the variety grown in initial contamination. After about 30% of larvae do not leave the cyst even when growing potatoes. That's bad. That not all leaves the potatoes, leaves the cyst, and this is a big problem. They remain as in the future as future infection potential. Yeah, it stay in the soil and it will be infection potential for the next years. In years without potato cultivation, some of the larvae leave the cyst or die in the cyst. These so-called cultivation breaks reduce the population in a national way. In the first years after potato cultivation, the reduction can be about 30%, after which the value decreases. So we go farther, we go from the biology to the host plants, and this is a very interesting and important point, host plants. Mainly potatoes and tomatoes belong to the host plant cycle, but also eggplants, also in many weeds as a typical black night shadow, and many other black night shadow growing plants. Also datura is a black night shadow plant, and also Hyoscyomus niger. And also host plants are oxalis and Chenopodium or polyfolium, which is a common weed. These weeds allow the nematodes to thrive. The dangerous thing about the pest is the first latent infestation is usually not detected. That means you don't see the first infection. And this is absolute dangerous. In the field, the first signs of severe damages consist of small patches of plants with retarded growth. These patches are often sharply defined and vary in size from a few plants in a row to patches of many square meters. Yeah, it looks like a nesting, and you can see it, typical nesting, an infection in the field. You can see it on the picture. Affected plants show a darker green color and flower later than healthy ones. It must be in combination because there is an extremely high stress potential, and it's every time that the plants flowers a little bit earlier. The root system resembles a bird of densely branched roots. In severe cases, the root system is greatly reduced. The young swollen female cysts usually become visible as white pinheads on the roots from the last week on June, or maybe depending on the climatic conditions, a little bit earlier or a little bit later. The white cysts of Globodera rossisiensis change color later in via golden, in yellow, in via golden yellow, and ochre, and on the end to brown. Damage caused by the nematodes depends on variety and population density. High densities of nematodes may cause yield losses of over 50%. I saw fields with 100%. This threshold above which economic yield losses are to be accepted for potatoes varieties between 1,000 to 5,000 eggs and larvae per 100 gram of soil, depending on the variety and environmental conditions. Yield loss is not the only consequence. The tubers also remain smaller and they are much more susceptible for diseases. In addition to these direct losses, there are also losses resulting from regulatory measures restricting cultivation of infested fields and export of affected lots. The spread occurs through erosion with water, with wind blow, most from neighboring fields, but not least also by machines, also adhering to tubers, footwear, and so on and so on. The infestation nests of cyst-forming potato nematodes almost run in the direction of processing. You see it clear on the picture. Annual reduction and period in years between two potato crops needed to sufficiently reduce the level of infestation with potato cyst nematodes in sandy soils, assuming there are no groundkeepers. This is a trial, and you see a diagram from R. Mulder and Turkstein from 2005. And what happens if no potatoes are grown and there are no groundkeepers? The nematode population decreases through national death and by national occurring enemies in the soil. In dry, sandy soils, the population decreases annually by 20 to 25%, while the annual decrease in wet soils can be as high to 50%. But in theory, it is possible to control the pest with crop rotation. This, however, is economically not feasible because of a long period. You need an average of 8 years is necessary to reduce the population density to the level before the last potato crop. It needs 8 years from when you have 8 years between the rotation. Yes, then when you grow 1 times potatoes, then you get this. You come on the same level you started for 8 years. A simple example for how quickly it is contaminated, the field, by when you grow no resistant varieties. Decontamination with a single ghost cyst on 10 square meters leads to considerable to terrible damages in 6 to 7 years with annual potato cultivation. If potatoes are only grown every 2 years, yes, damage occurs after 10 to 15 years, with a 3 years rotation only about maybe 30 to 40 years. So, and this is the next thing is it's out of old literature, and I don't believe it for no resistant varieties. I think it's only the result is only by resistant varieties. It means in a 4 years rotation, not all at all, under very good circumstances. In order to prevent the spread of potato cyst nematodes and to reduce the population densities on the infested areas, many measures must be observed in potato farms. The first thing, the important thing is first apply sanitary measures to prevent the introduction of cysts via seed potatoes. Maintain a 4 years crop rotation in potato cultivation. This is normally the best way. In the case of low infection of soil, the nematode population can be controlled by very long intercropping periods between potato crops and absolute control of ground creepers. So, and then we need also varieties which are resistant against the pathotypes. Variety selection. However, in a 1 to 4 year crop rotation with susceptible varieties, the nematode population will still show an increase of 4 to 8 times at the onset of next potato crop or rotation period. So the aim is recommended to grow resistant varieties. Resistant varieties not only have a property of reducing infestation, but can also, and this is very important, protect infestation-free areas. With a good variety, with a resistant variety, you have an absolute protection for your field. If cysts are introduced onto areas, no infestation can build up when you are growing correspondingly resistant varieties. So now we come to the groundkeepers. This is to fight against the nematodes is a very, very important, most important thing, especially after mild winters. Eliminate potato growth ground creepers in subsequent crops, especially. Particularly good to control is it in maize or with corn. I heard that in Finland there are no herbicides. I hope that it will be changed. We have many herbicides, active substances in Germany to fight against the ground creeper in maize. So many German farmers, potato farmers, bring also maize in the crop rotation to fight against the ground creepers. So that is a very important thing to fight against these bad things. Impact of ground creepers on the crop rotations effect. Yes. Because of harvest losses, many usually small but also large tubers are in the field as so-called ground creepers or volunteers. As a consequence, up to 400,000 potato plants per hectare may emerge as weeds in subsequent crops. It's often assumed wrongly that ground creepers are only a problem in the first following the last potato crop. However, ground creepers may also form new tubers, which will increase this problem in subsequent years and hence the nematode problem more and more. Ground creepers in subsequent crops may not only eliminate the crop rotation effect, but instead the nematode population usually increases even more and more. The same is true when PCN, potato cyst nematode resistant varieties, is grown mixed with volunteers of the variety. So the next preventive measures are enter into machine communities only with nematode-free companies. Remove attached earth in all machines. Do not leave any external company's machines uncleaned on your field. This is the most sprouting cyst problem, especially by potato or sugar beets harvester. Clean machines well after each field change. If there are infested areas on the farm, they must always be processed last. Make all other fields first and the infested areas latest. Cultivation of resistant varieties is very important. Pay attention to partotypes. In the case of nematode occurrence, regular partotype control, biotest, and when you make the biotest, you know the partotype, and then you can fight against the cyst on the optimal way. No wastewater irrigation from potato processing plants on cultivated land. Do not apply residual soil from potato processing companies on your field. And if it's authorized, then need nematicides, but I heard that is in the moment not allowed in Finland. So now also the seed, due to the importance of nematodes, their control in planted potato cultivation in the EU is regulated by regulation. They belong to the quarantine pest. I told it also in the beginning. The production of planting material is only permitted on investigation-free areas. Yeah, you see the infected tuber prevent the introduction of cyst via seed potatoes. And now we saw the Europlant Finpom variety, resistance varieties, from which are resistences and which are pallida resistance. And we saw the till to one variety, there are also all resistance in the most parts is 1, 2, and 4, yeah, and but there are new varieties with Danina. Danina has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and also Georginia has a high resistance of resistences. Yelly has an excellent resistance against resistences. Karelia has 1, 4, but has also pallida resistance. Etana as French fries variety, there's 1, 4, and 2 and 3 as pallida resistance. This is excellent. And the new Otulia, which is going very well, is 1, 2, 3, 4. And also the new one, I hope that in the future, Vinica will be an excellent variety. It's a firm cooking variety with an outstanding taste and good yield and shining skin and very high yielding, and have a look on the resistance against nematodes is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and also pallida 2 and 3. It is the first variety in in Germany, and which has an pallida resistance as firm cooking variety. Yes. And I hope that you go not so long further with Sieglinde. You see, Sieglinde has no resistance against nematodes. And when you grow Sieglinde and again Sieglinde, then you get in the future, by the changing the weather, you get it will be every time more warm and no cold winter, and then you will get many problems with Sieglinde. I think so. So in the starch segment, it looks a little bit better with the resistance, with the varieties with nematodes resistance. We see excellent varieties with Rossistensis and Pallida. You have a look of Amanda. Amanda 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it's also resistance against 5. And it's Pallida resistant 2 and 3 part resistance. It was the first variety in Germany which was resistant against Pallida, and many farmers can grow farther starch varieties on their infected fields. So it was very good that we registered Amanda in these years, but there are coming new varieties also with Euro Grande with high resistance, and the new one is Euro Delta with Euro 1 and Pallida 2 and 3. And you can see further Euro Viva has also Pallida 2 and 3, and all starch varieties are very high yielding and with a high starch per hectare contents. So we are very happy with this assortment of starch varieties. I think we can discuss later also about worm potatoes or about the starch potatoes and their resistance. So if any questions remain unanswered, this Finpom team is always at your disposal. So now we come to the end. Thank you for your attention, and I hope on a good discussion later. Okay, bye-bye.